Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our very first edition of CANTO Conversations for 2022. My name is Teresa Wankin, and it's my pleasure to be talking to you this morning on low latency video streaming over the internet using secure, reliable transport. Halvision is a leading global provider of mission-critical, real-time video streaming and networking solutions. Their connected cloud and intelligent edge technologies enable organizations to engage audiences, enhance collaborations, and support the decision-making processes. They provide high-quality, low-latency, secure, and reliable live video on a global scale. To talk to us this morning, we have Kumar Sikanath, Solutions Architecture in charge of global accounts and cloud. Kumar has over 10 years of experience in broadcast video, engineering, IPTV, network management, and network security and quality assurances. Jose Olarson is a system engineer in charge of Latin America. Jose has over 30 years of proven success as a computer engineer in the broadcast industry. He has extensive experience working in engineering, project design, project management, IT, support, and sales. Also joining us from the Halvision team this morning is Carlos Castro, sales manager for Latin America. Carlos has over 6 years experience in the defense forces with critical mission and communication skills. He was part of the elite special forces in the Mexican Army and is a globally trained sniper paratrooper. Wow. Kumar, Jose, and Carlos, welcome to CANTO Conversations. We are really excited to have you talk to us this morning. So just to go over some housekeeping rules, remember, audience, we want you to mute your microphones. You can post your questions in the chat. We'll get through all of them. So now I take great pleasure in handing you over to Carlos, who will manage this part of the session. Carlos?
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you, Family Canto, for inviting us today to do this presentation, and thank you for all the audience is attending us today. Well, my name is Carlos Castro, and it's a pleasure, as Teresa said. I am here with my team in Halvision, Kumar and Jose, and it will be our pleasure today to introduce our company that maybe someone of you have heard in the market before, the name Halvision. We are a Canadian company, or someone you might not. Who are Halvision and what's the reason why we are doing here today? Well, Halvision is a company, it's a worldwide company today that it was founded in 2004. Okay, this is some of the locations that we have right now presence. We have over 400 employees right now. We own over 8 companies and we keep growing every single year. The reason why Halvision born in 2004, it was for the needs of defense. This is actually how we Halvision was born in 2004. We didn't know, we were not about telco, about broadcast, about enterprise, but about defense. And the reason why, and you're gonna understand a little bit more once Kumar starts to play a video that we have for you, is because of the latency and the high quality video, which is mission critical. This is actually critical because life depends on it. I was in the Mexican Army for 6 years, but I was trained, like Teresa said, everywhere in the world. I have over 14 trainings. And it was critical because you cannot imagine how, I can say, frustrated or difficult it is when you have a camera in your chest and you have to be doing video streaming from one country to other one. And the video was like 10 seconds, 30 seconds, even minutes with latency. And the reason why this happens before is because, as you know, the technology has been improving every single year. We didn't have internet before, or we didn't have fiber, or we didn't imagine about cell phones. Everything was doing by satellites, so when you stream from some point to another point, it has like a latency. And of course, back on the day, it wasn't that important before. But when we talk about, I can say, 2 industries, which is defense, or when we talk about hospitals, when we are doing a heart open surgery, actually latency is very important because life depends on it, right? So that's how Halvision born, because we create and we manufacture our Makito line actually in Canada. And with the years, we developed the SRT protocol, which allows us today to be the leader company in the world that I'll say 97, 99% of the times we do live video streaming in high quality in less than 1 second. So for you to understand how important is actually latency and quality, Kumar right now is gonna let you with some video. After that, Kumar and Jose, they're gonna go a little bit deeper with technical side. And we will really appreciate from you if you can start to write all the questions that you can. And at the end, we're gonna try to answer all the questions for you that is possible for us. Kumar?
Right. Flows for you. To talk about this, I've invited my colleague, Jessica Singh. Jessica, thank you for joining me. Can you tell me why low latency is so important? Jessica, did you hear me?
Stan, we all know how latency can be a big problem in video streaming workflows. Yes, Stan, I can hear you. As I was saying, low latency is key for the real-time delivery and interactivity in the world of enterprise, broadcast, and defense. Yes, I am going to go ahead. So as a...
All right, so I guess you guys have all seen this on TV, right? You always see an anchor asking a question to the talent, and then it takes 30 seconds for the talent to hear the question and then give a response. So in broadcast and in defense or in mission critical workflows, latency is super important. And that's sort of where Halvision comes from, right? So we come from the defense market where you want to send extremely low latency video from either an aircraft or a helicopter down to the ground, and the end-to-end latency has to be less than 1 second, right? So just to do a poll, so the first question for you guys, can you name the person on the top left corner? And second question is, if you had to send a video from say cricket stadium in the West Indies to a broadcast center in London, what kind of technology would you propose right now? Would you use satellite? Would you use a dedicated network connection using MPLS? Would you use some sort of a CDN solution, or would you use a public internet? So just would be interesting to know like what you guys currently use, and we can talk a little bit about how the new technology is actually solving that challenge. Let's see if we have the poll results. So Andrea, can you show us the poll results? Oh, here we go. All right, so 67% of the people said the person on the top left is Brian Lara. I'm very excited you guys said that. I wasn't sure. Yeah. I wasn't sure about putting that picture there, but very cool. So I'm Indian, so I'm a fan of cricket, so and also Brian Lara. So happy that you guys are on the same page. It seems like a lot of people actually have used MPLS for connecting different locations, and about 33% are using the public internet, right? So what we have seen is that with satellite, so when you're looking at sending video feeds, for example, like from the Tokyo Olympics to say New York City, what you'll see is that you have the capability to send that video feed using satellite, or you can use MPLS. But usually that comes at a cost. In many places, like getting an OB WAN with a satellite link might not be even feasible. Like, for example, we work in New York City, where getting an OB WAN to some of those buildings or locations are very extremely complicated, right? So what Halvision did is we came out with a technology called as SRT, by which you can use the public internet to send video in low latency from one point to the other. And what SRT does is it retransmits all the lost packets, and it takes care of all the jitter that happens on the network. So all you need on both the sides is just an internet connection, right? So this is a video that explains a little bit about how SRT works. I don't know how well it's going to show on Zoom, but let me explain the concept. On the bottom left corner, what you'll see is your live source. On the top left is if you take your encoder and send a UDP stream from the encoder to decoder over the public internet, what you'll see is you'll see a lot of pixelization, drop packets, right? That's primarily because there's a lot of packet loss on the network. On the top right, what you'll see is that it's that same network connection, right, with that 2% packet loss. But instead of using UDP, you're using SRT, right? So you don't see any of the pixelization, you don't see the drop packets, you don't see the frozen frames. And what's interesting is if you compare the top right with the live source, you can see the latency is about 260 milliseconds, right? And the bottom right is the same network link, but we're using HEVC. So we're actually using like half the bandwidth. So it's 2 Mbps instead of 4 Mbps. So what you're seeing is that you can go from point to point over the public internet. The connection is extremely reliable, right? So it retransmits all the lost packets, and the latency is extremely low, right? So Halvision came up with this protocol called as SRT about, I think it's like about 8 years now. And 5 years ago, we decided to make it open source, right? So how it actually works is the SRT, the encoder marks all of the packets that are being sent out. And then it uses SRT to send it out to the decoder. And the decoder looks at all the packets that are coming in. And if it loses a packet, it sends a negative acknowledgement to the encoder. And then the encoder retransmits that lost packets. So it uses UDP for the transmission. And so it makes it extremely efficient. So like I mentioned, we made SRT open source 5 years ago. Everybody, so it's becoming a standard in the broadcast market, right? So companies like, even like VLC can support SRT. So you can open your VLC player, tune into an SRT stream. So you could have, say, a stadium where an event is happening, you have an encoder getting that feed, streaming it out to a VLC player in a different location. And you could actually just use a VLC player to receive that, right? So we started an alliance called the SRT Alliance, which has more than 500 members now, including like Microsoft, Google Cloud, we have AWS. So what you'll see is a lot of the vendors in the telco and the broadcast market are part of this initiative. The members either support the initiative or have actually implemented open source SRT, right? And so what the beauty of this is that we can now interop with different vendors in the market. So you could be using a Halvision encoder and stream it to Microsoft in the cloud. And then Microsoft can do the distribution to, say, another decoder. For example, like we work with Panasonic, they actually support SRT as part of their cameras, right? So they can use our decoders to receive the stream. So all of a sudden, the industry is sort of collaborating with each other using this technology called as SRT. With SRT, we also have one of the things that comes up is, okay, so you have SRT, but do you have any capability to do redundancy across different network links, right? So we came out with a technology called as SRT path redundancy. So what this does is you can actually have your encoder connected to two different network links, right? So your primary can be from Vodafone, secondary can be from, say, AT&T, and then the encoder actually sends the same packet across the two different network links. So on the receiving side, the receiver actively looks at both the links and picks the packet that comes the fastest. So the beauty of this is that you have a seamless switchover in case one of the link goes down, right? We actually also just released the active backup mode. So in the active backup mode, the primary will keep sending packets, and the backup link will actually have just keep alive being sent between the sender and receiver. So if the active goes down, or if there's a large percentage of drop packets, the active will actually fail over to the passive. So in this case, the backup link is actually not using bandwidth. So in some cases, that could be interesting for a lot of customers. So we'll talk a little bit about use cases where this technology has been used. So Halvision provides extremely low latency encoders and decoders, right? So you can go from an encoder to a decoder in less than 150 milliseconds, right? So especially in remote interviews, there's a lot of applications. So we work a lot with NFL. If you look at any of the NFL feeds, any of the interviews that are being done by the anchors to any of the players that are in the stadium or training rooms, or any of the locations, all of that is being distributed using Halvision encoders and decoders. Our partner actually put this kit together where you have a camera, you have the encoder, and then you also have like a confidence monitor, right? So you can actually have a bidirectional interview, and you can actually take this kit to different places, just connect it to your internet connection, and then you're live, right? So there's no setup, no testing required, and makes it extremely efficient to use. We work with Globelinks. So it's an interesting application. So what Globelinks did, so Globelinks is part of Press Association in the UK. So they're a news gathering agency like Associated Press or Thomson Reuters. So what they do is they put this box together that has a camera, our encoder, and then also a modem. And they installed this in all the Fortune 500 companies across the UK and in many places across the world. And so what they use this for is bidirectional interviews, right? So they offer this as a service. So they provide this box along with an MPLS link. And then on the receiving side, the broadcaster like CNN or BBC would have a decoder that could be used to receive the feed. So even Richard Branson has one of these units in his facility on in Necker Island. I guess that's also in close to this region, right? And we were talking to one of the members of CANTO, and he was very excited about Richard Branson and having that capability for him to actually like talk to employees and in his location, in his offices in the UK and in different parts of the world using this connectivity. So yeah, Fox Sports, another big user of Halvision. What they do is they have the NASCAR races. So for the NASCAR races, they have our encoders that are being used to stream the video feed from the racetrack into their facility in LA. And in LA, like the operators actually get the video feeds in low latency. They can add graphics. They can produce the feed. And in some cases, they can even do remote production, right? So they don't actually have to send a crew to the racetrack. They could actually just send the cameraman with the encoder to the racetrack and then bring the feeds back to LA, where they could actually produce the feeds or produce the content and then distribute it either over public internet or using your distribution through cable or fiber. They also distribute the streams over public internet using SRT for monitoring. So what happens in many cases is the production team is in LA, and then you have like users who are at home. Sometimes producers or editors or directors are at home, and they want to look at that feed in low latency and say, hey, that feed, maybe we should produce it this way, or maybe that interview that you're doing, maybe like the talent doesn't look so good, maybe you should change the angle. So getting that low latency feed becomes very interesting, and you can do that using SRT, right? We provide a free app called the Halvision Play Pro app, so you can use that app on your mobile phone, and you can receive an SRT stream. So I'll hand it off to Jose Olerson. Like Jose is our sales engineer in LATAM, and he's worked in a lot of these interesting projects. So you can talk a little bit about some of the use cases like off-track betting, and also like distribution between different locations for operators.
Oh, thank you, Kumar. It's a pleasure to talk to everybody today. This case in particular is horse racing. They need to distribute his signal in high quality, super low latency, and with a good quality over the country of this horse racing. They use 700 points to distribute with the public internet as the principal way to do it. They have Halvision equipment doing encryption because the rubber of signal is very common in his country, and then they encrypted all the signal with different password for each point of distribution. They need to do it because they in the past used the satellite and was not a good quality, and they have a lot of problems with it. But nowadays they use it with our equipments using included watermark in each point of distribution.
Let me also complete for the audience to understand why it's so important. Like I said, because depending on the market that you are, this technology is going to be super important for you. For example, Fox Sports, like Kumar said, a couple of weeks ago, we have the Super Bowl. So it has to be real-time video with low latency, and they cannot jeopardize operation. You know, the signal goes down. But for example, imagine yourself that you own a hippodrome, like a horse racing, or you own a casino. Why the low latency and quality is so important? Because in the past, and also this was a very famous case in Vegas, in the casinos, you have a horse racing live video. You know, you are like you have there in Argentina or in Mexico. Here we have like a Grupo Caliente, which they have over 900 casinos. So what happened is you are streaming and you have, let's say, 8 seconds, 10 seconds latency. So you have somebody on the place, you know, on the land when it's the horse racing with the phone activated, and you have somebody in another city in the casino waiting on the table to hit a button for a bet, you know? So what happened is when they see immediately which number of the horse won, they say 10. They push the 10, and those 10 seconds allow them to win bets. So what happened is casinos start losing a lot of money. Also, it was for roulette, for poker, for these kind of games, because on these 10 seconds that the signal was traveling from one point A to point B, these people was like cheating and they were making lots of money, and casinos and horse racing, they were losing a lot of money. So that's why, for example, if you own these kind of places, of course, if you have 200 milliseconds latency, you can even say a word, right? So it's so important. But like I said, it can be for this industry, for a hospital, it can be alive, for a defense, it can be alive. For you that you do telcos, you might have some needs that you actually need the video travel as soon as possible and with the faster latency. But of course, also one of the beauties of SRT is that it is encrypted. This protocol, it goes encrypted by nature, and you can do one encryption more on top of that if you need it.
Just one more complement. With this system, they send the same signal with a high quality over the world to 6 points in the world to another hippodromes that do not have horse racing that day, but the people want to bet it, and then they distribute for 6 points in the world with a high quality over the internet too.
Yeah, Jose, like I remember, like we were talking to some of the horse race tracks in Europe, and what they were saying is that, yeah, in winter when they don't have many races, they want to get the races from different locations, from yeah, South America, where it's nice and sunny all the time. So yeah.
Yep.
Right. I guess the other application is about the operators.
Mm-hmm. We have a very good customer that use our system to BCP, Business Continuity Plan. And then they are a satellite provider. They have their own satellite, but they need to use a second system to guarantee the continuity of the business. And then they use our system to put some streams from the North America to South America and distribute to different points this type of signal, and then to contribute to the principal signal for them. For example, one channel that is away from the company could send can send the signal through the internet to them to distribute with low latency. And then they use this to BCP. That's a very important thing.
Yeah, and I think before they were using satellite for both primary and for the BCP, right? And now they switch. So the satellite is still the primary to link the location, but the BCP is more using IP. So it gives them flexibility, right? So if they have an issue with the satellite link, they can route the streams using IP from one location to the other, and then uplink it from another location.
Perfect, Kumar.
And then I think there was, oh yeah, I think can talk a little bit about, yeah, one of our other customers, Comcast. So they have a similar application where they're distributing streams from one location to the other using gateways, and then they're using that to distribute the feeds over the public internet. Another application where we see for a lot of operators is that you want to aggregate streams from different providers, right? So you're working with a lot of different broadcasters, and what you want to do is to get streams from all these broadcasters and then to distribute them over satellite or cable or IP to consumers at home. So what happens in that case is either you can get those feeds using satellite, but what we're seeing more and more is many of these broadcasters and content providers, they want to use IP to send the streams to operators, right? So we have a device called the SRT gateway, and what it can do is it can receive streams, IP streams, either as RTMP or SRT or any other protocol, right? And then it can distribute that as UDP or RTP or SRT to the head end, and then that can distribute it to users at home. So it becomes an interesting case to aggregate streams from all the different kinds of providers that are out there.
This is, yeah, and if you let me add there, Kumar, these ISPs, for you audience, like if you, someone of your internet service provider, this is becoming in Latin America, like super big in the market, because like I said, don't take us wrong, we don't have nothing against satellites or MPLS, but like Kumar said, involves a lot of money, involves cost on it, right? If we compare with the cost with public internet. So right now, I can mention to you many countries, over 20 countries in Latin America, where they are internet service providers, and they used to have the distribution from everywhere from 40, 50. We have in Mexico, the biggest company, internet provider is called Easy, which is also for Grupo Televisa, that they distribute 120 channels. They are SD HD to all the country. So they used to do it before by satellite, but the cost, it was like eight times more, you know? So right now what they do, like Kumar says, they just give all the signals to the gateways, and with the public internet, they can do the distribution, which actually save a lot of cost because they are the internet service providers, you know, so they can do distribution from 1, 10, 20, 50. We have people distribute like over 120 channels to over 600 different locations. So this is actually very, very good.
Yeah, and we also have like corporate broadcasting, where you're looking at a corporate enterprise customer. An enterprise organization wants to have their all hands meeting. So now, especially during the pandemic, you have a lot of users, a lot of organizations that have the CEO or the CTO of the company who wants to do an all hands meeting, and then to distribute that feed to users who could be in different locations across the world or even at home, right? So that's another place where you could use SRT to do that distribution over the public internet to many locations. So we have a project in the Asia Pacific region where you're distributing feeds from one central location to 120 different locations across the country, so that users in all those different locations could watch that feeds in low latency. So especially like if it's an all hands meeting, you want to ask questions back to the presenter, so that latency becomes very, very important. And then we can talk a little bit about medical. So we work very closely with some of the providers who make equipment for the surgery rooms. So if you think about a hospital or a surgery room, you have like cameras on the surgical lamp. you have cameras on the endoscope, you have cameras in different parts of the surgery room. And what you want to do is get that feed from that surgery room either to other personnel within the hospital. So for example, it could be students who want to watch that procedure in low latency. And in some other cases, what you do is you want to get that feed from the surgery room to a different facility, right? So you could have physicians who are a part of a consortium, or you could have surgeons in a different location who actually want to watch the surgery in low latency, and they want to ask questions back to the surgeon, right? So typically what you'll see in these cases is you'll see the surgeon doing a procedure. He'll actually have a headset that he's using to communicate with other people, either students or other surgeons in different locations. We even do like, we even have customers using our equipment for like remote robotic surgeries, right? So there's a surgery procedure that could be done on a patient, and the surgeon could actually be in a different location, and he can use this this machine. I think it's called the Da Vinci, where they could actually like perform the operation, and the robot on the other side would actually like remotely perform that procedure. But that video needs to come back in low latency, right? So imagine like you're doing a procedure and you're watching that video on a screen versus like being there. So that low latency becomes super important, and that's kind of where some of the medical applications use our technology.
Yeah, actually, Kumar, let me mention this. Myself, 2 weeks ago, I was in Bogota, in Colombia. I was in a surgery room. I presenced a surgery in a military hospital in Bogota. And it's very interesting because you have to know that they have to use 4K. So they use our Maquitos X4 because the video streaming has to be in 4K. And they, at least in each surgery room, they have 3 cameras. One is for the endoscope, one camera is on top to be recording the full surgery, and the other one is to record the full room. And so like Kumar said, this surgery, at least the surgery was doing a streaming for 6 auditoriums, because they were for this surgery was for medical military schools. So the people was studying for doctors, they can actually see the schools. The doctor has like the headset, the Kumar said, so he actually has a screen, and the students, they can be asking questions forward and back to see what they're actually doing. So it was like, you know, I'm not afraid of blood, but actually see a person there lying on bed. It was very interesting, and see, you know, how our technology in Halvision can help to train these people, because actually they are seeing something real.
I even saw like, so I've done a proof of concept with a customer. They were actually looking at radiation. So for this was actually a cancer facility, and so this was they would have women who have breast cancer. They could actually like so they would be lying on the bed, and they would perform a radiation on the point where you have the tumor. And so what was happening is that before they would actually have like a couple of seconds when they actually would target that specific point, and at that point you're not supposed to move, right? Because if you move, you could hit at an incorrect point. And I remember like they were actually using our app on our mobile phone to receive that stream, so the patient could actually watch what was happening using that radiation and that equipment. Because before they had to look at a mirror, which is super inconvenient because you have to like lift your head and look at it. And now because of our technology, like you could stream that video, and that patient could just hold the tablet up and then actually look on that tablet in low latency and look at what's happening. So yeah, some very interesting use cases for medical. So yeah, one other application that we see a lot is for distance learning. So in many educational organizations, you have distance learning requirements where you have sometimes professors in like broadcast studios, and many of those organizations use satellite to get the feeds to remote campuses, which are in different parts of the country or the world. And now they replaced that with using SRT, right? So you have broadcast studio with a camera feed, a presentation, and then you have an encoder streaming that video to students. So in some of the cases, we have a hybrid. So some of the feeds are still using satellite in some of the locations where you don't have internet connectivity. But in some places where you have internet connectivity, you can still use the public internet and then get feeds to students in those locations. So you have a hybrid approach there. And yeah, so just give a quick overview of the product. So we have our encoders, which are called the Makito. So there are 4-channel encoders called the Makito X4. It has 2 network interfaces for redundancy. So it also comes in single and dual form factors. We have the KB encoder, which is meant for OTT streaming, right? So streaming to YouTube, Facebook, etc. You have the SRT gateway, which is used for distributing streams. So it's like your traffic cop, right? It takes your stream and it can distribute it to different locations. And it can also take like a UDP stream, add SRT, distribute that. We have the Halvision media platform, which is more for IPTV or enterprise distribution. It's your management system. The PlayPro app, so it's a free app you can use on your phone to receive or send SRT streams. Halvision Hub is more of the cloud platform to connect different locations using Azure, Microsoft Azure as the backbone. And then we also work with a lot of faith organizations where you want to stream a prayer service from a priest or from a prayer room to people who actually want to watch it on their mobile phones or on their TVs at home. Right? I think we have a couple of questions. So
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I saw.
Yes, we do. So we can read them and we can take them one at a time. I'm not sure which one of you will answer them, but the first question we have is about the cost, because this is remarkable stuff here. So can you give us what is the average cost of these equipment?
Well, I'll say that about the cost, it really depends because we have a lot of different kind of equipment, you know, like, and that's gonna depend how many channels you want. For example, if we talk about Makito series, we have 1 channel, 2 channels, 4 channels. We have to see if you want H.264 or you want HEVC, or maybe if you want a Makito X4 with 4K, or maybe gateways, depends about the output. So actually, what I can say right now is like, we don't hire prices, but like I said, it's a lot that we have to take in consideration in order for letting you know a price. So my understanding is Andrea and Teresa, after the presentation, they're gonna share or contacts. So you can contact me and I will be absolutely happy to book a conference call 1-by-1 with you. You can let us know your needs and I can help you with a quote at any time without any problem.
Excellent. So can you talk a little bit about how secure this solution is, since data is being transported over the internet? I'm sure everyone has that question. So thanks for that question. Can you answer that for us?
Kumar.
Oh yeah, yeah. So we can do either AES 128 or 256-bit encryption, and with SRT, like the beauty of it is that initially you enter that passphrase in the sender side and the receiver side, and then every couple of minutes we cycle the passphrase. So even if you had the first passphrase that you entered, after like a couple of minutes that keeps changing, right? So it's not that you cannot intercept the communication. And yeah, so it's being used by one of the biggest broadcasters, all the biggest broadcasters in the world, and yeah, it's extremely secure.
Okay, great. And what about the integration with existing software? Because I saw in one of the slides, you showed us a little box and you're telling us this little box could eliminate all the hiccups in sports and horse racing and stuff like that. How easy it is to integrate your solution with existing infrastructure?
I think, you know, if you let me answer that, I think it's pretty easy, as long, because, you know, our technology is really, I'll say, simple. Even I'm not an engineer like Jose and Kumar. And to me, it's easy just to see the equipment, because if we talk about Makitos, the Makito family, they are encoders and decoders that you have even SDI input or DVI. We have one option is DVI 1 channel. So if you wanna plug direct your camera there, immediately you convert from SDI to transport stream, let's say SRT. Also, we have the line of gateways, which is actually very friendly because you can receive, if you have already the transport stream, you can receive SRT, you can receive UDP, it can be multicast as unicast, you can receive RTMP, RTP, RTSP, right? And also, but the best part of this is that we are not like, okay, if you give me UDP, I'm gonna deliver in the other side for you UDP. No, actually the SRT, I can receive your signal, for example, in SRT or UDP, and in the other side, I can deliver for you UDP, SRT, RTP, or even HLS, right? So actually this infrastructure is because right now the SRT is becoming a standard in the world, is very easy to integrate with other technologies.
Okay, and what about remote areas where the bandwidth is usually not like standard? Sometimes it can be affected. Is there like a standard internet access rate you need for?
I'll say, in a general point, the only thing that we need is a stable internet connection. Why do I say stable? Because our equipments, they work from 32 kbps all the way to 25 or 30 megabits, right? So we have companies that they do streaming with 700 kilobits or 1 meg, 2 megs, 3 megs. And one of the things that I think is very important for us to mention is that, for example, when you have a Makito encoder and decoder an X4, let's say side to side, they have something that is called network adaptivity, encode, right? So what it is do is, for example, if you are streaming, let's say, in a remote zone, because we work with that a lot, when the internet connection actually is very limited, actually they don't have fiber, it can be a satellite internet or whatever other internet they have. Let's say if you are streaming a video from 10 megabits, right, 10 megabits, but for some reason, when in the place where you are receiving, those 10 megabits goes down to 6 or 4 megabits, immediately the encoder adapts to that. So you're never gonna lose the streaming. You might lose a little bit quality because you're gonna reduce the megs that you are the streaming, but you're never gonna lose the signal. And then once the decoder comes back to 10 megabits or 11 megabits or whatever is your configuration, immediately the encoder adapts again. So this is one of the beauty of our equipment. Like I said, as long as you have a stable connection, because if you lose your internet connection, unfortunately, it's nothing that we can do. But also on the other side, like Kumar said, we have this path redundancy technology, which most of the companies, they can actually hire 2 different service internet providers. So in case one company goes down, immediately you have the other company keep the streaming going on.
Okay, great. And do you have any use case in the entertainment industry? I know you spoke about sporting, you talked about the medical and stuff. Do you have any use case that you can share from the entertainment industry?
What is specific?
Like for entertainment, like for concerts and stuff, especially with COVID.
Oh, well,
COVID-19 pandemic, there must be need for this. Yeah.
Well, one of our biggest customers that we have, and I'm gonna take that credit, I signed in Latin America, is Red Bull. And as you know, Red Bull, they do not only like these sports like a motocross, or parachuting things like that, but they do also like a concert. Right now is being, well, I don't know if in the Caribbean, but in Latin America, these concerts, like a rap concert, when people start to sing, but they don't actually write a song, everything starts to become in their mind, and they have Chile, Argentina, Peru, Mexico. So we are actually doing streaming for those live video concert. Also here in Mexico for the Corona Fest. In Bahamas, we have a use case also when they do video streaming for concerts. So yeah, actually, yeah, we do have. I'm not sure because, the thing is to share that in our website. We have many use cases. If you go to Halvision.com, you have a window there where you can actually see hundreds of use cases Unfortunately, we cannot share all of them because we have signed NDAs, you know? So we are actually just allowed to show you what other companies allowed to show you. So that's, but yeah, we have like a concerts, and I think we have also one comedy show, which I'm not sure, but yeah, we do have some of those.
Okay,
That's
great.
the first thing comes to my mind.
So we have a last question from the audience here. Can you talk about the ensuring the system is resilient? So can you talk about the resilience of the system?
Yeah, I mean, like with SRT, like we can we mark the packets, right, and we send it out. And on the receiving side, we look at the packets that are received, and if there is a packet that's dropped or not received, we send a negative acknowledgement back to the sender, and then they retransmit that last packet. So it's extremely reliable. We typically use the round trip time as a rule of thumb. So we have an SRT latency you can send on the sending side and receiving side. So on the sending side, you send the packet, and then you keep some of that packets in memory till the receiving side receives it, and then gives you an acknowledgement saying that, hey, I've received the packet. So yeah, so we have extremely resilient capabilities to retransmit lost packets. We have also done testing with like extremely high packet loss rates. And yeah, in all cases, like SRT has been extremely reliable, and that's the reason why it's sort of a standard in the broadcast and telco market now.
Let me explain it also sort of this way for you. What is the round trip time is the latency the internet has for default. In Latin America, we might have that you have somewhere between 20 milliseconds to 80 or 100 milliseconds. 100 milliseconds is a tenth of a second, right? So what we recommend for this case is always we do work, or was our recommendation, to work 4 times the RTT, the round trip time. What does that mean? Let's say an average in the Caribbean and Latin America, we have about 50 milliseconds of latency. So we are going to ask you to set up your equipment at 200 milliseconds, which is a fifth of a second, right? The reason why is because, for example, when you start to do your streaming, the packets are like a numbers, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's say the 6 never came, from 5 went to 7. So you have actually these 4 times that you said that it takes 50 milliseconds for the latency of the internet comes and back. You know, so in those 50 milliseconds, because you actually add 3 more to back up yourself, so they ask for the package that never came, and it comes back immediately, and you never have a problem, you know? So you're still having a latency of fifth of a second, but you're never gonna have a package loss. That's why always we recommend, and this is for broadcast, to work 4 times RTT. But if you are no broadcast, sometimes people work less than that.
And just a comment. And sometimes you have FAC too, combined with ARC, that's aggregate more resilience for the stream.
Okay.
Yeah, so the difference there is with the FAC, you actually send redundant data along with your packets, and so like if you lost something, you could actually reconstruct the lost packets on the receiving side. With the ARC or SRT, you retransmit lost packets. So we can do a combination of both the SRT and FEC. So it becomes a, yeah, so it depends on how much resilience you need, right? So we have different levels we can offer. So the flexibility is there.
Okay. Very interesting conversation, innovative, and would really change the streaming game for the Caribbean and Latin America. So any closing comments from you, Kumar, Jose, Carlos?
No, we really appreciate your time. Like I said, again, the invitation in order to have you here. We're gonna be waiting to have contact from all of you, and we really thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you guys for your time this morning, and thank you to your audience for tuning in and staying with us. For those of you who have additional questions, feel free to send them to us or reach out directly to the Halvision team. We will post a video with contact information shortly. Our next CANTO conversation is scheduled for the 15th of March, and we will discuss technological advances that cancels the formation of lightning. Very interesting stuff. Also, it is never too early to mark your calendars for the 17th to the 20th of July, when we'll bring the Caribbean ICT stakeholders with us to Miami. So mark those calendars and be sure to be there if you want to sell your products and services to any of the Caribbean ICT operators. Thank you very much. Stay safe and stay connected as we bring you experts in the field of technology and innovation in connectivity and take you on a fun and exciting journey with CANTO Conversations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey guys, bye.
Thank you.